Okay, so following on from our Rhino session today, we sort of alluded that, well, I'd alluded that I'd watched this video and we might be looking at maybe turning one of our 3D shapes into a mould that we can create our former. And this is something that might be useful for us making our mycelium bricks or tiles or blocks in a few weeks' time. So I can't quite remember when that is. I think it's a week on Thursday now. So I need to make sure these are ready, and if you do want to have a play with this, then we can certainly investigate it. So following this guy's video, it's quite informative, one of those simple ideas executed very well. So looking here, he's got a three-part mould, a lid, a base and the sides, and the base is attached with these pins, and he's alluded that the material shrinks. We don't know what our properties of materials are going to be soon until we have a go. The resolution is pretty tight. You can see the layer lines of those 3D prints coming through. So yeah, quite excited about trying this. Again, the other thing he talked about was the thickness, because these things break. But yeah, going ahead, we don't really know what to expect until we give it a go ourselves. So what I'm going to have a go at here is just minimize him. And we've got our objects that we played around with in the studio session. So what I might do is another rebuild of that and see what we've got. So I talked about using a shape like this, making it maybe a thickness of 15 mil or so, which is what I've been told. It needs a decent chunky heft to the mycelium in order for it to take its shape. So without further ado, let's just nuke all of those. And I'm going to draw my rect, and I'm going to start at 0 and hit it up at maybe 100 by 100. Okay, so zoom select. And you can see I've got my shape. Let me just double check with F7 that my grid and the correct orientation. So red should be going along and green should be going up. Again, I seem to be in large objects, don't know why, but nevertheless. What viewport am I in? A shaded. Let's try rendered. Oh yeah, I messed about with these, didn't I? So if I do advanced display, I can change shaded. Let's do gradient, and I'll match the colour of my text down there, my ticker. Was that a top colour? Ooh, let's inverse that. Dark grey to green. There we go. Let's be super fancy and actually use the right one. Look at that, it's looking good. Okay, so to get a surface on there, I'm going to use planar surface, and I'm going to rebuild it. And I'm going to rebuild it, what did I use? 16 before, with a degree of 3. So the degree 3 will make sure that those curves are nice and curvy. So now I've got my UV curves plotted on my surface. I'm going to points on, which is this guy over here on the left hand side, or I can hit F10 on the keyboard. Again, if you've got a PC, Mac, keyboard, laptop, those F10 keys might be shared, so you might need to use a function. So going into my different views, we want to make sure that we are selecting the right shape, so I can do that quite easily in the top view, he says, as he is enabled to select. But if I want to do that a bit more on the fly, I can use the Alt key and click and drag, and that won't select the surface. And I can move those up. Got a bit of system lag there, it's a bit disconcerting. Okay, my grid snap is on, so I'm going to turn grid snap off, and that might give me a little bit more. Maybe what I thought was system lag was actually snapping millimeter to millimeter. I'm going to try and keep the edges square. We shall see if we're able to do that using a few different tools later. Yes, that might work. I don't really know what this is going to look like. Obviously, when it comes to growing the mycelium in it, I've never done this before, so let's see if that actually works out for us. The other thing I can do is a few rotations These look pretty sweet when they've been rotated. Yeah, it's looking pretty tight. I've got right, this guy is going to be a problem because you can't really have overhangs when it comes to this process. So drag that out. It's quite alright to have those sharp kinks. Keep those in. See how we get around playing with that. And I might want to go down a bit actually in a few of these areas. What view was that? Alright. So looking back at what we played around with today, we want to make sure that these edges are perfectly zeroed. So what I'm going to do here is select those boundary points just by doing drags from left to right, and I'm going to make sure they are flat on the on the Z axis, which was in transform, set X, Y, Z coordinates, and set to Z, and I can just drop that back where they are. Just click on there, and in theory they should be completely flat. What we might do here, turn the points off with F11, or the what was it? Oops, F11 or points off, which is right click on the icon. And we can rebuild this perhaps. Select surface extrusions to rebuild. So actually before I do that, I'm going to do a duplicate because I don't want to trash it. I'll have to go on back and just delete. Always good to keep one copy spare, I think. So you might want to use layers and choose the original surface layer, turn it on, and rename it accordingly. So what could I do on this? As I said, rebuild and go from 16 to 8. Oh, we've got that much softer, smoother profiles, which I think both of them have their merits, don't they? Which one shall we use? I'm going to use this one. I might just have to double check that those edges are flat again after doing that rebuild. So points on with F10. Go in the top view to select. And yeah, I've got those. I'm going to just use the outside edges now, given I've got fewer. Transform, set X, Y, Z, Z, and just bring that down to a point, and they'll just be completely flat. Turn grid snap on, and I think I'm going to try and just do a few freestyles here and see what happens. So I'm going to draw a cube, 100 by 100, and maybe this is going to be, well, they're only, what, 2 mil high? So, no, they can't be 2 mil. I wonder what the unit that is. 10 mil. So this is approximately 20 mil high. So let's make a box 40 mil and bring that down so it's in the center. And I might actually have to bring that top layer up. So this, if you look at those keyboard commands, is Control Shift left click to select the face, and I'm going to drag that up because we've got a bit more depth on this base here. It's a pretty chunky object, so we'll see how it goes. And what I need to do now is do a split. I need to split this. I'm going to hide him because he's now in the way. I'm going to split this cube with this surface, and again I might change my viewport to ghosted now in order to kind of gauge what's going on here. And let's try a split over here. Objects to split is the cube, and the cutting object is going to be the object. Did it work? It flipping worked. The only reason it worked is because I made the cube exactly 100 by 100 in X and Y, and in fact I did it endpoint to endpoint, didn't I? These things have to be completely intersecting. Intersecting means if I run the intersect command, press enter, we can see we've got those 4 edges all the way around. So let's just split that again. What I'm going to do here is maybe move that to there and that to there, and I'm going to copy that shape to there and that shape to there. I can delete the original. Oh, no, I won't delete the original. I'll put it over here and I'll hide it. And what I've got now is a male and female. However, if those go to join, my objects aren't going to have that thickness that they need. So what can I do here? I guess I could put my object there, and I know my grid snap is the 10mm. Otherwise I can use the gumball and just drag it up and type in 10. Could do another trim. Select cut. Oh, I just do a trim now. Sorry, I got confused. Select cutting objects. Going to be my surface. Trim off the base. I probably didn't need to do that, did I? I wonder which. Okay, and then what do I need to do? So I've got the bottom part of my mold box, J for join. Top part of my mold box, J for join. I need to create the something that allows me to actually press it into it, don't I? So I need to create the walls. So if I go and make the walls, maybe I use the top view, like that, to the height. So I'm kind of just, can I rotate that from the center? God, copy. Forgot to do copy. Center of rotation. Come on. Copy, yes. Okay, we've got two there. Yeah. So I've now made my walls. If I was to drag this up to be the right thickness, I can now again use Shift Control left click to choose those edges and drag that down to the base, and then I can do a Boolean union on the relevant parts. Don't know if that was the most appropriate way to make that, but that is what I ultimately needed, so it seems to have worked out okay. And what I need to do now is, oh yeah, I could tell you a different way of doing that. I could just do a Boolean difference in a cube. I'll try again a different way. Need to do a merge. What is it? Unify. Okay, merge all face. Merge all coplanar faces. That's what we need to do. And let's just tighten that up. So what we're going to have here is this object is going to get plunged down into there, and the void, once they're flush, is going to go into a 10mm surface, hopefully. The other thing the guy had was a base, wasn't it? So I can do a 5mm base maybe, if I can actually use the computer. So that's 10mm. There we go, and then I can do a Boolean union on these two shapes, like that. So that's going to just have a nice surface to connect to, and with it being completely square, I probably don't need those pins, because this thing is hopefully going to slot in. Now, depending on the machine that we're going to use, the tolerance of this fit, at the moment this is exactly the same. I'll be very surprised if I print this off on the Ultimaker and have them both fit perfectly into this object. I'm a little bit anxious that this thing is so dense. But let's see how that works out. Later we could probably be a bit fancy with that, but I think that's going to look okay. Right, here, rendered, got my object, got my mold box, positive and negative, As I say, I'll be amazed if this thing actually goes together. So what I might do here is a little cheeky. So in software, it's called a draft angle, where you'd actually have this, angled in a little bit. And what I'm going to do here is use plane that covers the. Oh, where's my shape? This piece. Let's make sure it overhangs everything, and I'm going to rotate that from here, maybe -2. Which is probably enough, or maybe -3. As you can see, that was the original one, and this is the new one, and that actually intersects those edges there. And it's got a bit more complex now. I appreciate that. I'm going to rotate it around the center again 4 times. Copy, yes. Okay, so now I've got those surfaces that are intersecting the object. And I'm going to do this one at a time. Cutting object that, and delete the cube shape. Select my plane, do a trim, select the cube shape, mold. So these completely intersect, they're looking great. That's the original one, isn't it? So select that shape, the angle, trim away my object. And now I can select my, can I do a J for join? And then trim. Okay, so I've got those shapes, and I just want to delete those top pieces. Not working. How come that's turned to that? Is that because I did a J for join? Yeah, okay. So I'm going to save this now, because I've forgotten to save it. It's going to be called mould box or something. And saved, good. I'm going to trim. See, it won't do that because at the moment this is bigger than the surface. So I'm going to delete these. I've got my floating object, which is now a few millimeters. You can see in the top view, a few millimeters smaller than that surface edge. So what I'm going to do here again is a loft and build those surfaces back up. It was a bit faffy, I appreciate that. There's probably a better way to do it, but this is the one that I can think of right now. And maybe this is the best way, I don't know. It's going to work anyway, I imagine, unless obviously we experience something a bit weird with our mycelium structure material that I don't know about because I've never used it before. Drag that back down, put it back on 0, zoom extent or zoom selected, right click, and there we go. In order to get this to print, I'm going to export this accordingly. As an STL file. Mould box base. Mould box lid. Open Cura. So how does this look compared to this guy's YouTube video? So my wall thickness is a 10 mil, whereas this is clearly about 5 or 3 or 4, I don't know. So mine's probably a bit overkill. Do you think I should scale mine back a bit? Let's see what it says in Cura. That's very bright. Okay, so open this. Mould box base, mould box lid, open. Holy moly, this thing is huge. So I can only do one at a time, which is a bit of a bother. So again, if you guys want to do a play around, maybe make this half the size. I think you do need a bit of the Z depth, so that's going to still be retained. This is going to take forever, 8 hours. Yeah, so this is an overnight print just for the flipping lid. So back to the drawing board. Can't have that. Alright, so let's do some quick changes. First things first is I'm going to press Ctrl Shift and select the base and the bottom of the walls there, and I'm going to bring that up 15 mil. Is that right? And I'm going to select Shift, click that, and I'm going to drop that by 15 mil. So in theory, if I move that onto there, our object's still going to look pretty much the same. Yeah, okay, that'll work. And then I've got around 9mm here, and a lot of negative space there. So I wonder what can I do to get rid of that? I suppose I could design something that doesn't have a giant, whatever that's called, right over there. You know, I probably could get fancy and try and delete some negative space, but then ultimately we do have to have this thing attached to the base, you know, sit on the floor or get squashed in a clamp. So I'm just probably going to keep that. So let me rotate that back out. Export base. Yep, replace. Okay. Export lid. Alright, 6 hours. So save 2 hours. Big flipping deal. No, you said to got it on draft, have we? Got it. Got to put it on fast. I think I've got to keep changes there, and slice again. So I lost some resolution. 6 hours. The thing is, though, look at it. It's 10:30. It doesn't really make any difference to me because I'm going to be asleep, and this thing can be running overnight. All being well, so maybe I want that resolution. Let's see what the preview looks like. Oh, didn't slice it. Oh, it's because I moved it. Well, it looks good. Let's just save this out. Mod box base, and let's bring in the other one. Let's see actually if I'd have got a 0.8 nozzle on there. Keep changes, slice. You know, looking at 3.5 hours. So if you were doing this in the studio, that could be set up in the morning. You could have it off by after lunch. So it might be worthwhile exploring the different nozzle sizes. And ultimately, when it comes to the previews, when you've got it at 0.2, that is really going to be quite indistinguishable from a 0.8 to a 0.2, because it's all down to the layer height. Okay, in this instance, I really don't think you can have much of a problem there. So I'm just going to change that back because I don't have a 0.8. Actually, I might have a 0.8. I'm not going to experiment tonight because it's too late. So reslice and save. Save to file. Mod box base. Yep, just save it. I don't know what I did. Okay, so I can kill this person, well, that model, not person, goodness me, and choose the lid. Slice. Wow, 11 hours. So that's going to take me to what, 9 in the morning. It is a bit extreme. Don't know what to say really. 180 grams. You know, and it might not even work. You know, it does. What's that? 40 layers before it even gets to the actual object. Creates the negative shape there. What do you reckon? Probably going to go for it. Save. Save. Pretty much concludes that. So fingers crossed that's going to work out okay. And we can have some cool models to show. I suppose if I was to really try, I think where's the lowest point? It's here. Because even if I was to, you know, mass out some volumes to get rid of this much stuff, do Boolean difference there. The way that the printer actually does its job, you probably wouldn't save much time or material. So, but that said, there is going to be a difference, I think. Rotate and Alt. Oh, flipping didn't extend it all the way. So as long as they extend all the way through, you'll be okay. And does that intersect with my geometry, or have me? How close to it is it? Difference, subtract from this guy. As I said before, let's not make any rash decisions here. Always make a copy. Subtract from this shape, delete input yes, with 1, 2, 3, 4. So I could have something like that. Let's just see. It's a bit crude, I don't quite like how it looks there. Lid with slots. Was the last one 11 hours? It's gone up. As it put support material on. It has, let's change that. Exactly the same, you see, even if I'm using only like 10 grams less material, because the reason being is that when it goes down here, it's going to do all these extra lines, which are perimeters. Okay, so it thinks the perimeters are important, it slows down for those, so it actually slows down for the red, whereas before, when it was a solid orange, it can go at full speed on these interior objects because it doesn't really matter about the finish on the inside shapes. So yeah, didn't really worth a try. Didn't really gain anything there. Okay.